So today we are doing a super fun tutorial where I am going to chop up a shirt and make it into a different shirt. As you can see, this is a little snug and I do not want to wear it this way. Listen, I have had 3 kids. I'm 42 years old. Snug clothing went out the window a long time ago. So today I'm going to show you how to make this adorable, flowy sleeved poncho type shirt out of an old t-shirt, or in this case, this t-shirt, because we're just going to chop this one right on up. Let me show you how to do it. Oh, I already feel better. I just like flowy clothing. I don't want things to be form-fitting. That's not comfortable. So today, let me show you how to turn this t-shirt into what I'm wearing right now, which is pretty much like a poncho, but we are going to connect underneath the sleeves. So I'm still wearing a tank top under this because in a breeze, it's going to flow around. So you do want to wear something under it for sure, but this is so breezy and so comfortable. I wore this to the original Sewing and Quilting Expo a couple weeks ago, and I got stopped so many times of people asking, how did you make that? That's so comfortable looking. And I was like, yeah, it is. Hold please. I still have to film the tutorial. So for those of you asking, here's the tutorial. Guys, this is very beginner friendly. You can do this one on a sewing machine, but today I'm going to show you how to do it on my serger. I love using a serger. It makes things so much easier. And if you're looking to amp up your sewing game a little bit, I have my favorite beginner friendly serger linked in the description below, which is the Brother 1034D. It's a fantastic machine, an absolute workhorse, and it's so easy to thread, very user-friendly, and there's a million videos of it online if you ever have a question or need to troubleshoot something. All right, let me show you how to cut this up. And don't freak out. It's okay to cut a t-shirt if you don't like it. I promise. It's all going to be fine. The first thing we need to talk through are fabric choices for your sleeves. Now, for this shirt and for today's tutorial, I'm going to be using this beautiful set of Cantha fabric that I ordered on Etsy. Now listen, the price I paid for this was a little bit much. I think it came directly from India. So with shipping and everything, it came to about $40 or $50 for this fabric. And I got, I think 20 squares. They're 10 by 10 inch squares, and we'll use a good portion of them, but there will be leftovers. So if this does not appeal to you, you can do this in a solid color and use quite literally any fabric you have on hand. But 2 of my favorite options for this would be a rayon challis, would be absolutely beautiful. It has great drape to it, and it would be really fun. Like this cheetah print, anything cheetah print is so fun. Let's see how beautiful would that be? And the drape is perfect for this. You can get this on any website that sells fabric, garment sewing fabric. My favorite place to get garment sewing fabric is Mart Fabrics. Y'all know that about me. I've got it linked below. The other one that I think would be actually really fun, it's a little harder to sew with, would be like a chiffon, which is an extremely thin fabric. You can see it through it basically, but this would still be ultra lightweight and flowy. Yeah, that would be pretty too. You could also go to your local thrift store and just pick up a couple of scarves, anything, even a lightweight fabric poncho that you can find those at the thrift store as well. Anything that's flowy will work for this because essentially what we're looking to get is 2 really long rectangles out of it. So as long as you can get, and I'll show you those measurements here in a second. We're not really using a pattern for this. Have you met me? I never use a pattern. But those are some other fabric options if the Cantha is not your thing. It's definitely my thing though, so I'm going to show you how to piece this together. Let me show you first how to cut the shirt. It's springtime here, and one of the reasons that I'm sewing up all of these flowy, kind of chilled out garments is because it gets really hot here in Tennessee. And I'm planning to spend a ton of time outside this spring working on building a garden with my son. So I need comfy, airy clothes that still are a little bit stylish for that. Since my son and I are doing this together, we have been watching some videos on Craftsy about gardening so that we make sure to do this correctly. Thank you so much to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video. Craftsy is an online community and resource where millions of crafters, makers, and DIY enthusiasts find inspiration and advance their skills and learn new ones all along the way. Craftsy has over 2,000 exciting classes in over 20 categories like crochet, knitting, painting, photography, cake decorating, and in my case, gardening. All of the classes are broken down into easy to follow lessons, and they're led by friendly, award-winning instructors who share creative wisdom as they provide step-by-step demonstrations so nobody gets lost in the process of learning something new on Craftsy. All I had to do was type in gardening in the search bar, and it brought up a wealth of knowledge on all different types of gardening. I decided to take a class called DIY Weekend Gardens by Sarah Bendrick on Craftsy. She shares all of her gardening expertise while being approachable and showing you how to build a garden using things you already have. Upcycling, gardening on a budget, how to take care of your plants, and how to use things that you've got lying around your house to make great gardening accessories. This class was absolutely fantastic, and my son and I learned so much. I can't wait to take him to the garden center this weekend so we can pick out some beautiful flowers and vegetable plants to put in our brand new garden. I have taken so many classes on Craftsy, it's not even funny. I've learned how to bake sourdough bread, I've learned about gardening, I learned about watercolor painting, and even with my sewing skills, sometimes it's nice to brush up on things that I don't do a whole lot. And Craftsy is a quick and easy place full of trusted, vetted instructors. They will show you exactly how to do what you're trying to learn, but take their time and show their patience and let you move step by step. And bonus, you can pause it and come back to it when you have time. I've also got really good news. The first 1,000 people watching this video to use my link in the description will get a full year of premium Craftsy membership for only $1.49. I said it, $1.49. I can't wait to go to the garden center with my son this weekend to pick out some new plants, some new pots, some new soil, and get to work on our garden outside. And I'm gonna do it wearing my super flowy comfy shirt because it's gonna be hot this weekend. And this girl needs clothing that breathes. So let me get back to showing you how to make this adorable, breezy, upcycled t-shirt poncho. Now, your instinct might be to cut along the curve right along this seam and kind of curve in. Don't do that. It's going to make your shirt look really wonky in the front and the back because you're going to have extra fabric down here, and then it will very severely cut up to where you have less fabric, and it just doesn't look very flattering. What I recommend is a straight cut going down from right next to your shoulder seam, like just to the right of it. So I'm going to be using my 24-inch quilting ruler for this, and I'm going to straighten everything out on my cutting mat. I've got it lined up right next to the armpit seam over here, the shoulder seam, where the sleeve is attached. And I'm going to come straight down and just use a chalk. This is a little chalk marking tool to help me figure out where that cut needs to happen. Okay, so remember, we're not going with the curve of the shirt. We're just going straight down. And then you can go ahead and cut it. So I'm going to use my scissors for this. You can use a rotary cutter if you want to. And we're just going to cut off this whole left side here. Now, if you want to make this really easy, you can just save this piece and lay it on the opposite side. That'll make sure that you get things nice and even. It's really up to you. And let's see, what if I lay this down? Well, it would help if I laid it the correct way. Yeah, that seems like more trouble than it's worth. I'm just going to draw it. So I'm going to lay this straight on top here, just to the left of where that seam is, and draw a nice chalk line going straight down. I love this tool. I'll link it in my description. It's so helpful and handy. And now we're just going to cut this side off as well. And as you can see, this is actually a V-neck shirt. The original I did was like a crew neck shirt. So you can do this with any type of neckline. Some people prefer the V-neck. Also, if you decide that you have the crew neck and you don't like it, you can always just cut a part out. It's fine too. All right, so here's what we need to figure out next. Now that we've got this opened up, we need to measure this full length right here, because that's going to tell us how long to make our rectangle for the sleeve portion. And this, you know, can be somewhat of an estimate. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to hem it at the bottom. So right now, for me, it's looking like we are right about 60 inches or so. Yeah. So I'm going to make sure, and let me just show you this. I'm going to draw it to make it easier. So we've got our t-shirt piece like here, right? And we need to make two pieces that are the same, which I'm making this longer. I may not leave this extra, but we'll see what happens. You can either leave some extra on the sides or you can make it just the same length as your shirt. Let's say we're doing that. So right now we've got, let's pretend this wasn't here. So we know that the shirt, when it is stretched out, is 60 inches across, which means that we need to create a rectangle that is 60 inches long at least, unless you want extra down on the bottom, which then you would maybe add some more, and that's fine. You could do that and always cut it off if you hate it. For me, I'm going to be using these 10-inch Cantha squares. So what that's going to look like in my case is 6 going across, and I'm going to make mine 2 wide. So that'll be 20 inches by 60 inches. And then we're going to make 2 of those. Okay. So let me show you how to lay that out, and I'm going to serge mine together, but I'll also show you really quickly on the sewing machine, if that's what you're working with, how to do it on there. I'm going to lay out my first set and sort of just see how the colors look together. And so since this is going to be vertical, you want to sort of treat, if you have stitches, you can decide right now if you want to have those little hand stitches going all the same direction, or if you don't care. I'm going to try and make mine all go vertically. And the reason I'm laying this out first is to just sort of get an idea of where my colors are. I don't necessarily want to have like 2 pinks right next to each other. I like to put a good mix of colors in so that it's just really bright and vibrant. See how that blue just looks so pretty next to the other one. Oh, just love these fabrics. Love them so much. This is fun. Actually, I'm gonna put that there. You know, because pink and orange. It's my thing. And don't use all your favorite ones on one sleeve, because then you won't have them for the other sleeve. I love this. Let's do that. Okay, I'm running out of room. We may have to overlap a little bit. If you hear my birds chirping outside, mind your business. I like having my window open and it's spring, so we're just gonna leave it open and you can hear the birds sing while I sew. All right. Ooh, this green is pretty. Sometimes it's hard to choose because there's beautiful colors on both sides, and that makes it very tricky. This blue is great. What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need one more. Let's do, and maybe something darker. This red is cool. Okay. Love that. All right. So that's our first set. Now, if you want to go ahead and lay out your second set to make sure you have enough good colors for the other side, you can. I'm just going to trust the process. So essentially, it's almost like quilting, because we're going to be just folding this over, pretty sides touching, and sewing right here. However you decide to do that is fine, whether that's with a sewing machine or a serger. I will show you both options here, and you can decide. I've matched up my pretty sides together, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam right along here. My stitch length is 2.5. I'm just going to use regular white cotton thread on this because we've got so many colors. You could use a gray or a neutral, just whatever. My needle is a universal 80-12, nothing fancy. We're just going to sew it straight across here. Okay, that is if you are using a sewing machine. Now, you are going to want to finish those seams somehow. So I would go over it again with a zigzag stitch. And to do that, we're just going to go to our machine settings here, click on the zigzag stitch, line it up with the center of the notch on the center of your presser foot, and you'll sew down this side, and you'll see that one stitch is going kind of in on the left side, and then the right one either kind of falls off the right side a little bit or just barely skims it. And what that does is it encloses that raw seam for you, which will keep it from fraying. Now, is this the most perfect option? Not necessarily, but it will work for this project. The best option would be a serger, and I'll show you that in the next step when we sew the next two together. But there's nothing wrong with this version at all. I'll show you up close. See that zigzag stitch? It'll work just fine for this project. All right, time to connect our next piece. So I'm going to take my next one, put them together, except this time I'm going to show you how to do it on the serger. Come on. We're at the serger. A serger is a tool that you can have in your sewing room, and it essentially knits your fabric at the edge, and it's also cutting it. So these 4 thread spools will knit themselves around and keep that raw edge from fraying. The great thing about a serger is it's not just for woven fabrics, it's actually really helpful with knit fabrics, like stretchy fabrics, because it maintains the stretch of the thread with the way that it knits it around. If you were sewing stretchy fabrics with just your regular straight stitch machine, those those would pull out as you wear the garment and stretch and put pressure on those seams. If you use a serger, they move with the garment, so they stretch with the fabric, which makes it ideal if you're wanting to sew knit fabrics. I'm not telling you you need a serger. I'm just telling you what it is in case you're interested in getting one. They're really helpful tools in the sewing space. So I'm going to go ahead and just match my right sides together again. This time I'm just going to serge the seam, and that's going to do both the straight stitch function and the finishing edge that we did in 2 steps on the other machine. Love the serger. Quick and easy, and then you'll just trim those little tails off. It's looking really good. I'm gonna add my next piece on. So I'm gonna keep working on this until I have 2 rows of 6, and then I'll show you how to connect them together, okay? You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. You've got this. Look at all these pretty strips of fabric we've got. Now we've got 2 6x1 pieces, and we are just going to fold it up, pretty sides touching, and do your best to match those seams as you serge or sew this whole line. But listen, this is like boho chic, right? It's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to be free-spirited and flowing. So if your seams don't nest exactly right, I don't want you to worry about that. Keep on chugging along, because this is just going to be what it is, and it's going to be beautiful whether those seams are perfectly matched up or not, okay? You hear me? You hear what I said? It doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's going to be my next t-shirt. It doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. Wouldn't that be great? And it'll be full of like imperfect things. I just came up with a great idea. Nobody steal that, okay? All right, let's sew this together. Okay, it's time to sew the long strips together. And so I'm just going to match my first 2 seams the best I can and start throwing it through the machine. Now, I have found that 2 Cantha 10-inch squares is a long enough sleeve for me. You may want these to be longer, in which case you can add a 3rd set, like a 3rd row to this if you want to, and then you could even trim it down to where that last row is a half, you fold it up halfway, and it'll still look fine. You do what feels right for you. This is just what I feel works well for me. It's not so long that I'm getting stuck on doorknobs when I'm leaving the house. Has anybody ever had that happen when you're wearing a poncho or a kimono or like a little cover up? Oh, there's nothing more infuriating to me than if I get caught on a doorknob. I immediately get angry when that happens. I start getting, I start mumbling mean things under my breath. It's just frustrating. Especially when you're like carrying, it's always when I'm carrying a bunch of things to try and get out of the house quickly and I get, caught up and then I get thrown backward. Such a great feeling. All right, keep going. And when you get to the end, I will meet you back here and show you what we've got. It's going to be so pretty. Here is our first line that's going to go, it's going to go like this. So measure it now to make sure that it's the same length or a little longer than your t-shirt. Now listen, my measurements are not going to be the same as your measurements. Your shirt may be significantly shorter than mine or longer, and that's fine. Whatever the length of your shirt is when it's open like this is what you should make yours, okay? So that's pretty much perfect. Well, not perfect, but it's right where it needs to be. I'm going to go ahead and make my other sleeve with 2 rows of 7, and then I'll meet you back here and show you how to connect them. We're almost done, you guys. It's crazy. We've got 2 gorgeous sleeves now. It's time to attach them to the shirt. So I'm going to take my first one. I'm going to lay it pretty side up. I'm going to fold it in half and mark the center of this sleeve. Put a clip there. Too much stuff in my tin. Look at this. It's a mess. I need to clean my stuff out. Your t-shirt is most likely going to curl a little bit. See how it's curling? Straighten that out. And find the center point of the top of your shirt. Now that probably won't be. It may be a seam. It may not be a seam. Let's fold it down and see. Threads everywhere. Yeah, so for me, it's a little bit off the seam. So I'm going to mark that with a clip. And I'm going to lay that pretty side down on my sleeve where I marked it. Okay, so the sleeve is pretty or right side up, and then the shirt is right side down. And I'm gonna match those clips. And once I get them matched up, I'm gonna marry the two and get rid of one. To become one. Anybody else a Spice Girls fan? Just me? All right, now unroll that a little bit. Now I've got some of this t-shirt seam. Let's get rid of that. You're a troublemaker. Keep unrolling it to get it right along the edge. And you're gonna probably clip quite a bit here because that t-shirt just wants to roll. Rock and roll. Right, unrolling it a little bit. And you'll also unroll it as you sew it. But one thing that's important here is do not stretch your t-shirt as you're clipping it into position. Like, as in this way, like don't pull it. Because then it'll make your stitches look wavy. Like it'll make the fabric look wavy, which we can't have. That's not good. This is a smidge longer than my t-shirt. That's actually great. That'll work out well. Lovely. And now I'm going to clip down the other side. We're all clipped and ready to sew. So let me show you this on the serger. I'm going to sew this, I think, with the t-shirt facing up. We'll see how that goes. That way I can keep an eye on how rolly it gets. So we're just going to lay it right in there. Get it started so everything is catching, and then start finagling the fabric. So I'm pulling it to the left a little bit because that seam is rolling on the t-shirt. You're just going to want to hold it flat so it gets right there in the seam. Serging is not a sprint, it is a marathon. You are stopping, well, in a marathon you're hopefully not stopping every few inches, but you are here, and you're going to take a minute to make sure every few inches that things are lined up properly, that you don't have any fabric underneath your area that you're serging, because that'll put a hole in your garment, and that's a real bummer. So I'm going to keep serging right along this seam. We're attaching the sleeve in this step. And once I get this one attached, I'm going to go ahead and attach the other one. And then we'll try this on just to sort of get an idea of where things are landing, okay? So keep serging, do your other sleeve, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay. Let's take off this one. Remember, we got a tank top on, so we're good. And let's try this one. And now it's not going to be attached at the sleeves yet to show you that part, but it'll at least give you an idea of where you stand with all of your sleeves and whatnot. Now, I don't have my microphone on, so if you can't hear me as well, I apologize. I'll put it back on in a minute. But right now, we're just trying to figure out how things are looking. Yeah, looks really good. Now I can wear this t-shirt some more. So we are going to hem the sleeves, and I'm just going to do, I like the length right now, so I'm just going to do, I think, 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch. I don't want to lose a whole lot of length there. And then for the bottom, I think what I'm going to do is serge across the entire bottom to like even everything out. So maybe I'll cut it I'm going to cut it down a little bit. I don't mind losing just a smidge of the length. Or if your pieces are longer, like mine are here, you can also just hem this side up, right? And it'll maybe I'll do that instead. I think I will. So I'm going to hem just this part. So make sure when you're making this that your sleeve side is at least like 1 inch longer on both edges, whatever that number is. If I were you, I would overestimate your sleeve length. So I did 70 here. Ideally, I should have probably done like maybe 75 just to see how it looked. Now I'm working with 10-inch squares, which is why this got a little confusing. But if you're using a challis or a rayon or something like that, you can just measure it longer. That's a great idea, because then if you want these sleeve pieces to be a little bit longer than the shirt, that's fine. If not, you can hem them right up to where your shirt bottom is, okay? So that's what I'm going to do in this case. Let's start with this. Let's start with the sleeves. I'll start with that, and then I'll show you the other part. For the sleeves, I'm going to use my 1/4 inch quilt foot with guide. You know this is my favorite hemming tool. Gives you a beautiful 1/4 inch hem every time. And we're going to find the edge of one of our sleeves here. Oh, I missed a spot on the serge. I'll go back and fix that in a minute. So we're going to find the end here. I'm going to fold it over just for the first few inches, about 1/4 inch, and then another 1/4 inch. You can measure this if you want. I'm going to just do this, and then we're going to lay it under the machine. I'm just going to use regular white thread because there's so many colors happening already in this, so it's not really going to make a difference. You can do whatever you want. And then just start sewing up that 1/4 inch seam. I'm lining my fabric up with the edge of my presser foot, which is what gives you the 1/4 inch. I like this because you don't have to press it. It just makes it a lot easier. And if you've watched any of my videos, I use this foot all the time. It's a favorite. Like if we were inviting presser feet to the Christmas party, this one would be at the top of the list for invitations. All right, I'm gonna keep working my way up this side, and then I'm gonna go on the other side and do my 1/4 inch seam, and I'll show you how those turn out here in just a second. It's time to hem the bottom of our sleeves. So you can see we've got a little extra length on the end here, and that is what we need. So I am going to serge across this, but I want it to be so that it's at 1/4 inch away. And once, let's pretend that this is where it is. Okay, this is where the serging should be. Then I can just fold it under and hem it to be right in line with the t-shirt. Okay, so here's how I'm going to do that. As you can see, we've got that 1/4 inch that's longer than the shirt length, which is great. And now we're just going to fold that down and sew on the sleeve part, not on your shirt. Then you don't have to deal with your shirt because your shirt's already hemmed. That's not the problem. Now, if you don't have a serger to be able to do it like I did, you can also just cut so there's a 1/2 inch hanging longer than the t-shirt. And then you can 1/4 inch up and 1/4 inch up again. And that should put you in line with the t-shirt. And again, you guys, it doesn't have to be perfect. So if you decide to leave your sleeve lengths longer and just hem them where they are, that's fine. No shame in that game whatsoever. Okay, you can see now that's right in line with the t-shirt bottom. Repeat that on your other hems, and then I'll show you how to attach under the sleeves, and we'll call it a day. You're doing great. Here it is on. But see how it's like coming in here? We need to make these sleeves behave a little bit. And the way that we do that is by attaching them under the sleeves right here. We're just gonna sew a straight stitch, probably 2 inches. And in true boho fashion and spirit, we're just gonna sew with our feelings on this one. And the first thing I'm gonna do is just make sure that my sleeves are lined up at the bottom. And when I look at this, I feel like right here along this seam would be good. So I'm going to mark that with a pin, carefully take the shirt off, and then let's lay it down, and I'm going to show you how that actually translates into a stitch measurement. The beauty part about this is if you sew it and you hate it, you can just rip it out and do it again. So I am going to match my 2 sleeves here, and I'll trim all these threads here when we're done, but for right now, 'tis what it is. Lay it out flat. This is important because it's going to sew through to the back layer and you don't want it to be uneven. So if you want to do it just like mine, 13 inches down and 9 inches in. And what I'm going to do is mark this with a little marking pen. And it's going to be about 1.5 inches. I'm going to sew it above the seam. You can sew it in the seam if you want. But go ahead and clip or pin in that area so that your fabrics stay stacked up. And then while we're here, let's just go ahead and mark the other side. So now that we know we're doing 13 and 9, we can just repeat that wherever it falls on the other side, which is fine. Stack those fabrics and 13 down and 9 inches in. I'm gonna just put a mark right there. And that rinses out with water. And for good measure, put 2 pins around it just to keep everything stacked. All right, let's sew that stitch. Call it a day. One thing I love about this type of garment is if you are a beginner, this is a really good option to do. And let me tell you why. First of all, let me tell you what we're doing. I'm gonna sew these stitches 1.5 inches straight across, like right through both fabrics, and back stitch a bunch of times just to make sure it stays locked in. But anyway, Have you ever, with a child, noticed that like if they're freaking out and having a tantrum about something, if you do something even more wild and bright and colorful and crazy, that a lot of times they'll be like, and just stop? I feel like it's that way with sewing really colorful garments. They cover a host of sins. So if you are not matching up all your things properly, I think people will still stand back and be in awe of the colors and the brightness and the pretty patchwork pieces. I don't think anyone's going to care if they're not matched up perfectly. So my point is, if you're going to be starting sewing garments, this might be a good option for you so that you can mess up and it'll still look absolutely gorgeous on you, but it's not going to be that serious. I used to do that distraction method with my kids all the time. Like if they were just completely inconsolable about something, I would start dancing around kind of crazy or put music on that was just kind of silly and make funny faces when they were like little. And you'd be amazed how they're suddenly like, you're weirder than I am. You know? My mom's crazy. It works. Maybe not the best parenting tactic, but darn it if it works. All right, backstitch a bunch. Take those pins out, and now we're going to try this on. All right, here's the finished piece with it all. Oh, it's so cute. Look at those pretty colors, and look at the back. It's just, like I said, it's just stunning. It's so visually interesting that people will not notice if it's not perfect. I promise you they won't. All right, now it's going on a little bit more like a shirt, and we're going to straighten everything out here. And you can decide if you don't like where you put those stitches, you can take them out and try again. I like this. I think it cinches it in right where it needs to be so that it's just a little bit more form-fitting, but not much. Okay, you still got all kinds of movement in this garment. Y'all, here's the back. Woo, so cute. I'm in love. Are you going to make one of these? I hope you make one of these, and then I hope you send me a picture of it because it's going to be so cute. So there you have it. This is the fun flowy sleeved shirt. We took a shirt that didn't fit, that otherwise would have gone to the Goodwill or the thrift store, and we turned it into something beautiful that I'm going to be wearing all summer long and be so comfortable in because it breathes and it moves and it won't catch on the doorknob. Yay! Thank you so much for following along today. I'm Chelsea with She Sews Seams. I love teaching beginners how to sew. I love making sewing approachable for you, and I hope that you found this tutorial helpful. Make sure to like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of my upcoming content, and I'll see you next time.